Welcome back to Builds Not Projects. This week I'm gonna be back on the Trike. So got some new spark plugs. The old ones got kind of destroyed, and then also I ended up blowing out the clutch because in the last video it had a large amount of dirt that got stuck in the clutch, which I think may have been part of the issue from the last video as well. So got that all blown out, and then we'll get these plugs slapped in, fix a wiring issue that we created in the last video, as well as fix a coolant leak that it has. And then we'll be taking this thing out and hitting some pavement with it. See, kind of maybe do some quarter-mile times, or, well, probably not quarter-mile, because that's a really long ways, and this thing's kind of fast. So probably 1/8 mile times, maybe 0 to 60 time, and just kind of see what it'll do. New versus the old spark plug. Yeah, they got a little bit ruined.
Well, we've successfully made this Trike really unreliable. It seems like every time we go to use it now, it doesn't run at all. Some really nice looking gas just sitting in the floats of the carbs.
Well, the Trike looks like is gonna need a top end rebuild for sure. It's not running at all. We've been messing with it for going on 4 hours now, trying to get it to run, and then I pulled the carbs off, and that's what the inside of the engine looked like when I pulled the air filters off. Well, these new air filters, yeah, they didn't stop the dirt. So yeah, this engine's toast, which really sucks. We did all these new air filters. This was like $160 worth of air filters that we put on this thing, and yeah, they didn't do anything. So that's super handy. Tried cleaning out the engine. This is what came out of the drain. So it's got block drains on it. I sprayed carb clean or brake clean in there to try to clean all the junk out of it and just kind of see what it looked like. The cylinder walls don't look the greatest. I'm sure it's probably just low on compression. We had it running once or twice today, and it only would run for a few minutes. It would never idle. Yeah, so that sucks. So we'll be looking into doing a top end kit on this. I've got 2 more of these 600 XLT motors. One of them's got a ported cylinders on it, so I may try to take it apart and see what happened to that one because it's locked up. Yeah, so that's a bummer. So I guess we'll start tearing it apart and see what we end up with. So this is the ported engine that I have. This one actually came out of a part sled. We used this one at the beginning of the Trike build to mock up all the mounts and figure out all of its positioning. It didn't have any carbs or anything when I got it. Those triple pipes that are on that motor actually were on this one before, but the price of the carbs, I ended up finding a whole snowmobile for like half the price of what the carbs cost, so I just went that route and bought that one since it ran, and then pulled that engine out and put it in. So this one though, I mean, really feels like it has way better compression than the one that's on there. I mean, obviously it's been ported, so it's probably got different pistons and such in it as well. I don't know anything about this thing at all, but I think we're going to try to slap it on and see what happens. It seems like a good idea. I mean, it can't run worse than the one that's on there, so it doesn't take that long to swap out. So we'll get started doing that, and I don't know, maybe we'll have an 11,000 RPM trike instead of like a 8,000 RPM trike. Some nice looking crap coming out of there.
Well, that's a lot of water. Should be fine though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be worse than the one that has no compression. At least this thing's got pretty good compression, it feels like. So, I mean, yeah, the crank bearings might be a little bit rusty, but it was also like probably half full of two-stroke oil. And when we were using this thing for mocking up before, anytime we'd like tip it or anything, it would just pour two-stroke oil out of it. So it probably had a good 2 quarts of two-stroke oil in the crankcase. So I'm hoping that it coated everything, and then when it got filled with water sitting outside for a couple years, it didn't hurt it too bad. I don't know. Find out. So we got the ported engine all cleaned out. Got the crankcase flushed out as good as we could. So we're gonna leave the drains and stuff out of it for the rest of the night. Let it kind of try to air out a little bit, dry up a little bit. Tomorrow we'll get back on getting them swapped out. The paint got a little bit screwed up from all the gas and stuff that we drained out of those drains yesterday. And these tubes got kind of screwed up back here, so I'm gonna clean them up a little bit. And I think I've still got some of this paint, so I'll just touch them up real quick, and then we can move on with putting the other engine in. We got the motor out of the trike, and then we got the other one here, so now I need to swap over coils and wires and everything, because this one's missing some stuff there. Well, I guess it's got the wire, but I know those ones work, so I'll just swap all that over. It'll only take a couple minutes, and then I gotta swap over the pull starter. I think I'm also gonna swap the water pump, because I welded this plug shut on this one. And this motor also had quite a bit of rust in it. I mean, the water pump would probably be fine, but it's 2 bolts, so I might as well just swap it over while I have the cover off. I also got to swap over the little exhaust pipe adapters while they started out on this motor. So put them back on there. Got to swap over this coolant block off plate for the radiator cap on this one. And yeah, so we'll just get all this stuff swapped over, and then we can get back to tossing her in. As I'm going through swapping all this stuff over, I pulled these plugs out. They still look like they're in good shape, so I'm gonna just toss them back in. They're a little bit of a colder plug than the ones that were in that, so that should be a little bit better, hopefully for us. And then I looked down in this cylinder here, and you can read the numbers on the top of the piston still. It's this thing's got 1mm overbore pistons in it, so I'd put it at 600 and almost 616 cc's instead of the 597 that they were originally. So that's kind of cool. Big bore, big pork job. So this thing could be a little bit wild if it runs. So I guess we'll see what happens. So we got all of the stuff swapped over onto this engine here, so now we can toss it in there and bolt it all back together. Just a few things to hook up there, and then see if it'll run. Well, it's finally time to pull start on this thing a bunch. Kind of sore from pull starting on the other one for like 3 hours yesterday, so hopefully this one starts up pretty easy. So we'll have to pull on it a little bit because I don't think the carbs probably have much gas left in them. Most of it drained out when I had them off there, so we'll see if this thing will run.
Well, that wasn't bad.
No, at least started up.
Yeah.
So I just cleaned the plug off out of the middle cylinder, the one that was shooting all the fire and backfiring really bad. The plug was wet, so it had been misfiring for sure, and then it's pumping all that extra fuel air mixture into the exhaust, and then when it does light a couple revolutions later, it lights all that in there too, and then shoots a nice fire out the end. So hopefully it's just this. Could be a carb issue because those carbs were full of dirt from those air filters. So we'll try this again, see if maybe we can get it to clean up a little bit. This thing also had all that oil and everything in it, so it might take a little bit to clean up, and then hopefully it'll run good. I slapped the plugs in out of the other motor that were brand new yesterday, so we'll try that, see if maybe we can get it to clean up. I'm kind of hoping that it just has all that residual oil and stuff in there that's still trying to burn out of it, because it's firing, I mean, it's backfiring on the one cylinder, which could mean that it's just misfiring, pumping some gas mixture and stuff in there and then shooting it out, or I mean, it could have another issue too. But and then the other two cylinders, the one on that side, the plug was wet. The one on this side, the plug was kind of half wet. So we'll see if we can just get it to clean up, try running it a little bit. The clutch does not seem to be working at all. I think it's rusted completely solid, so that's all right. We've got the other one we could try, or we can take this one apart and try to like clean it up really good and put it back together and see if it works eventually, but got to get the engine running good first.
Hey, that was...
the clutch decided to turn on, and then proceeded to get stuck. So, yeah, that was kind of interesting. Notice how I'm sitting on here, because I was kind of worried it might do something like that. I didn't want to get ran over, so...
I almost got ran over.
It also is running a lot better now with the new plugs. It's cleaning up pretty good, so that's a plus. So the new plugs definitely help. This thing runs way better than it did with the other plugs, so that's awesome that this engine actually works, or seems like it's going to work pretty well. The biggest issue right now is the clutch is rusted up so bad that it wasn't engaging at all, well, until I revved it to like probably a little over 8,000 RPM, and then it decided it was going to try to engage, and now it's stuck partially engaged, so it just tries to drive. So I'll have to pull that clutch off and see if I can get all the rust and everything cleaned out of it, get it all put back together. Alright, so that's all we've got for this video. Next time you see the trike, we will be getting all that stuff figured out with the clutch and then tuning and that kind of stuff. Go see if we can get it out for a test drive as well. But next week we're going to be back on the mower, so we're going to try to get some stuff done on it. And then make sure you go check out the merch on the website at buildsnotprojects.com. Get yourself a cool hat or shirt or sweatshirt or, you know, any of the above. So thanks for watching.